The email came at 7:46 a.m. Subject line: Meeting Executive Realignment Discussion. No explanation, no agenda. Just a calendar block for 8:30 a.m. in Conference Room A9, a room usually reserved for board-level conversations and media. Briefings? I didn't bother replying. After 9 years with the company, I'd learned that when they didn't include a body in the email, it wasn't a discussion. It was a decision already made. I put on my blazer, combed down my graying hair, and walked across the 4th floor in silence. It was launch week, our launch week. The Virion OS had just gone gold. Tomorrow was the product unveiling, everything we'd worked toward, or at least, everything I had. When I walked into A9, the new CEO, Garrett Hayes, was already seated. Custom suit, tailored posture, and a face so polished it could have been printed from a render farm. His assistant stood awkwardly by the door, tablet in hand. Legal counsel was also present, which told me everything I needed to know before a single word was spoken. "Zach," Garrett said with a neutral smile. "Please have a seat." I stayed standing. He glanced down at the tablet. "We appreciate everything you've contributed to the company's growth, truly. But after careful review, the board and I have decided that your role is no longer aligned with our new strategic vision. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated." That was it. One sentence, memorized, delivered like a weather report. No handshake, no thank you, no acknowledgement of the years I'd poured into building the very product they were launching tomorrow. I didn't ask why, didn't argue, because the real answer was already written between the lines. Garrett Hayes hadn't built anything. He was here to rebrand, to cut off the history, slap a new label on the box, and sell the illusion of innovation. The truth? I didn't fit the optics. I looked over at the assistant. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Security was waiting outside. When I stepped out, not that I posed a threat, but protocol was protocol. They followed me to my office on the 2nd floor, where the lights were still on from last night's prep run. Post-it notes from the team cluttered my whiteboard. An open box of Virion key fobs sat on my desk, ready for tomorrow's demo. I looked around slowly. My eyes landed on a black leather-bound sketchbook sitting in the drawer, the original. Virion OS wireframes drawn during one brutal winter week 6 years ago. Nobody knew I kept it. I slipped it into my bag. One of the guards coughed softly, awkward but not unkind. I nodded. I packed without speaking. A photo of my wife and me at the first product conference in Chicago, a stress ball shaped like a processor chip, a gag gift from Luis, the framed thank you letter from our first client beta, with "Your tech saved our rollout" scrawled in pen across the bottom. 9 years in a cardboard box. As I passed the break room, I saw Priya at the espresso machine. Her eyes widened when she saw me, then narrowed when she noticed the box. She mouthed, "What the hell?" I gave her the faintest shake of my head. I didn't want her to say anything. I didn't want a scene. I wanted out. With my dignity. I reached the lobby. One last walk past the massive display. Virion OS, the future of workflows. Launching. Tomorrow. I stepped into the sun, blinked, and adjusted my bag. No one stopped me, no one followed, and just like that, I was gone. Before there was an office with glass walls and biometric doors, there was a repurposed dentist's office with stained carpet and flickering fluorescent lights. 15 of us, total, counting the founder's brother who handled HR and IT from the same laptop. That's where I started. 9 years ago. No fanfare, no C-suite, just a Craigslist ad that read, "Looking for a systems architect who isn't afraid of duct tape and 3 a.m. problem solving, equity included, maybe pizza." I was burned out from a failed startup that collapsed under its own vision. I didn't want another vision. I just wanted to build something useful. In my 2nd week, our lead engineer quit mid-sprint, left the code base half-compiled and undocumented. The entire back end imploded. No one knew how to fix it. The founder went home sick. Two junior devs were Googling solutions like we were trying to defuse a bomb with a YouTube tutorial. I stayed all night. By morning, I'd rewritten the core logic using an old script I'd tinkered with back in grad school, a dynamic workflow parser that could auto-prioritize dependencies in real time. It was messy, barely stable, but it worked. That was the seed. That clunky workaround became the foundation for what we eventually named Betrayal OS. It wasn't magic, it wasn't revolutionary, it was practical, the way real innovation usually. Something that solved an actual problem instead of chasing buzzwords. Over the next 2 years, I built the team piece by piece. Luis came first, back-end specialist, obsessive about clean architecture, hated meetings. I recruited him after a conference where we argued about event-driven models over lukewarm coffee. I knew he was right. When he called out a flaw in my own system and then offered a fix before I could respond, Priya joined during version 2.0, AI integration. She'd been working on machine learning for healthcare scheduling, and her code made our predictive engine 10 times faster overnight. She was the only one who ever challenged me in a design review and won. Cam was our wild card, UX lead with an art degree and no patience for bloated interfaces. He once trashed an entire interface I'd approved, rebuilt it in 48 hours, and doubled user task efficiency. I didn't argue, we were scrappy, underpaid, exhausted most days. But we believed. We believed not because of a mission statement or a keynote slide. We believed because every time we released an update, real users sent real emails. This cut our process time in half. Our team actually enjoys using this now. You fixed a problem we didn't know could be fixed. That's what kept us going. I remember the version 3.1 winter, what we called the 3-month stretch when we nearly lost our funding. Payroll was late twice. Investors ghosted us. At one point, I paid for our cloud infrastructure out of my personal account just to keep the system online. My wife, Grace, didn't question it. She just asked if I'd be home for dinner at least once that week. Spoiler: I wasn't. I missed 2 Thanksgivings, 3 birthdays. Our 5th anniversary dinner was spent on a Zoom call from a motel because a server bug had taken down a pilot client's workflow platform. I slept on the office couch more nights than I can count. Sometimes Cam would leave post-it notes on the coffee machine. "You're not a mattress, Zach." I'd smile, then keep going. Virion wasn't just a product. It was years of coffee-fueled war rooms, 3 a.m. breakthroughs, whiteboard arguments, and impossible deadlines somehow met. It was sweat and sacrifice and belief. Every update was personal. Every client problem solved felt like a little redemption. When the beta finally rolled out across our first 5 clients, logistics companies that relied on our tools for real-time decision trees, they didn't just thank us. They asked for us on every call, not send support, not submit a ticket. Soon Luis, Priya, me. That's the part the new regime never understood. When Garrett Hayes came in 6 months ago, he introduced himself with a slideshow. He used phrases like synergize vertical momentum and rebuild perception architecture. He shook hands like someone practicing a handshake. He wore $900 shoes to a platform rollout. He never once asked how we built what we did, never asked about the original framework, never asked who wrote the original parser, never asked why Priya's predictive layer was tied so closely to Luis's dependency engine that separating them could crash the whole tree. He saw a product, not people. He saw IP, not investment. He saw a launch window, not the 5 years of weekends we spent carving that window into the wall. Now I understood the look Priya gave me in the lobby yesterday. Not just shock, grief. The kind you feel when something sacred is torn away without ceremony. Because that's what it was. 9 years of something sacred, gone with a morning email. I sat in my apartment that evening, the black sketchbook on my lap, the one I'd carried out with me. Inside, the first sketches of the parser system, scribbled notes about UI flow, my signature in the corner of the architecture map, the real birth of Virion OS, not in a boardroom. Not on a keynote stage, right here. Pen on paper. Coffee stains on the margins. I ran my thumb across the corner of a dog-eared page, and for the first time since the meeting, I felt something real. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. They could fire me, erase me from the About page, lock me out of my own code, but they couldn't rewrite the truth. I woke up the next morning at 9:03 a.m. to silence. No calendar pings, no Slack dings, no reminder buzzing that Virion's global launch, 11:00 a.m., was scheduled. Just the soft hum of the ceiling fan in my home office and a cold patch in the bed beside me where Grace had already gotten up. I made coffee and stared out the window. Birds. A neighbor mowing his lawn. Life. Uninterested in the noise I'd helped create. At 10:58, I clicked the live stream link out of muscle memory. The screen faded from black to the glossy, corporate branding Lantec had spent months on. Sleek animations. A pulsing sound bed. Camera panned across a rented auditorium filled with applause-ready employees. Virion's. The future of flow. Then he appeared. Garrett Hayes, tailored to hell, perfect smile, walking like he was born in a spotlight. Today, he began, marks the start of a new era in intelligent workflow automation. He spoke in clipped, polished phrases that sounded like someone wrote them on a napkin during a brand strategy meeting. The product you're about to see isn't just a tool, it's a leap forward. Designed with precision, developed through bold vision, and brought to life by a culture of innovation. No mention of Zach Turner. No mention of the team that actually built it. No Luis, no Priya. Not even a generic nod to our developers. Just him in the future. The demo ran smoothly, too smoothly. They'd spent a lot of money on that stage. I recognized most of the UI, but something felt sterile. Like watching someone else raise your child and pretend it's theirs. They showed predictive task routing, real-time logic mapping, and a new insight feed that I knew for a fact had originated from a half-drunk brainstorm with Cam at One Russ. 2 years ago. When Garrett called it his favorite feature, I nearly laughed. I closed the stream window before the standing ovation. By noon, my phone buzzed non-stop. Cam. You watching this garbage? I feel like I'm being erased in, real time. Luis. They renamed my algorithm and gave it a trademark. Even Priya, who rarely reacted to anything. Are they really pretending this all started in Q3 of last year? I sat back in my chair and waited for it to stop. It didn't. By 2:20, I had 3 missed calls from journalists. I recognized one name, Ellie Harper, tech reporter from TechLine. She'd interviewed me once 2 years ago during our limited beta rollout. Sharp, asked real questions. I didn't answer. Then Priya messaged again. You won't believe what TechLine just published. I clicked the link. Headline. Who really? Built Virion's? Early documents suggest a different timeline. Beneath the headline was a familiar image. A blurred photo of a whiteboard sketch, one I hadn't seen in years. It showed a messy architecture map with scribbled initials and arrows. T in the upper corner. Priya's AI subflow labeled P3 Auto Triage. Luis's back-end routing cluster circled in red. The source? Screenshots. From my original prototype documentation, the Z article was careful. It didn't accuse anyone outright, but it outlined a timeline that directly contradicted the one Lantec had paraded on stage. While Lantec claims Virion development began in early Q3 of last year, sources familiar with the original team's work provided documentation and internal correspondence showing feature builds as early as 4 years ago. Former employees describe a small, tight-knit team, led by now-departed systems architect Zach Turner. Multiple features demonstrated during the launch event appear in these early designs, raising questions about public credit, internal culture shifts, and intellectual integrity. It was measured, but damning. I scrolled further. There was even a screenshot of my sketchbook page, one I'd only ever shown to a handful of people. I leaned back, stunned. I hadn't leaked anything. I hadn't spoken to anyone, but someone had. Cam called. No hello. You seeing this? Garrett must be flipping. His perfect little teeth out. I didn't reply. He continued. Luis thinks it was Micah in QA who leaked it. Apparently, he saved backups of the shared drive before they locked you out. Didn't want history to get erased. Micah, the quiet guy. I remembered bringing him donuts on his first day. I exhaled slowly. I didn't ask for this. Yeah, well, you didn't have to. The truth wants out, man. By evening, the article had spread. Who built Virion built by Zach Sav. Give credit, not buzzwords. Tech Twitter was having a field day. LinkedIn lit up. 3 former investors publicly questioned Lantec's leadership, and in the middle of all of it, I felt nothing like victory. I felt tired, because this wasn't about me, it was about us, the team, the weekends, the sleepless nights, the arguments, the breakthroughs. It was about truth, and how truth, even when buried, has a way of crawling to the surface like roots through concrete. Garrett hadn't just tried to steal credit, he'd tried to erase the soul of the product. And now, slowly, piece by piece, people were realizing it. The TechLine article was still trending when the first message from inside the company hit my inbox. Subject line: "You should see this." No name, no signature. Just a PDF attachment. Internal doc. Titled, Strategic Realignment Initiative, Phase 2. The header read, Confidential, Executive Eyes Only. I opened it slowly, almost afraid of what I'd find. Slide 4. Key brand vulnerability, legacy identity attachment. Bullet point 2. ZT, Zach Turner. Strongly associated with product origin story. Must redirect narrative to align with new leadership voice. Slide. Credit structure plan. Public and internal, a table. Names listed next to roles. Garrett Hayes, Chief Visionary Officer, Evelyn Marsh. Technical strategy. Lead, design, NA. Architecture source, NA. AI integration, NA. Backend. Routing systems, I blinked. D, as if we'd never existed. Slide 9, Team Realignment, effective April 1st, Luis R. Transfer to Systems, QA Priya S. Reassigned to Lantec Health AI Subdivision, CAM H. Release. Contract non-renewal pending Micah T. Performance review. Access revoked. It hit like a punch to the chest. They hadn't just fired me, they were deconstructing everything we built, like pulling bricks from a load-bearing wall and repainting the rubble. I stared at the PDF for a long time. The timing matched, the restructuring, the launch, the carefully staged silence. It was never an accident, never arrogance. It was calculated erasure. That night I called Priya. I saw it, she said before I could speak. Luis too, he's furious. They reassigned you? I asked. Yeah, a health monitoring side project. Half the tools are legacy systems. It's like they're shelving me under fluorescent lights and forgetting I exist. I'm sorry. Don't. Doi, she said flatly. I've already exported my personal repos. I'm not staying. She paused. What are you going to do? That was the question. I looked around my office, the shelves still filled with project binders, old notebooks, and demo models. I could tweet, flame them publicly, rant and gather likes. I'd be justified. But I didn't want war. I wanted truth. So I got to work. I opened a blank folder. Titled it, Virion, Foundation Archive. Inside, I dropped the original architecture flowchart, dated 2 years before Garrett claimed development started. My first notebook scans, the design iterations we prototyped before we even had a name. Early. Slack exports from our private dev channel. Respectful, clean, time-stamped. Video clip from a 2017 strategy session. Me, Luis, Priya, Cam, whiteboard filled with sticky notes. My voice saying, we're going to build something that makes work feel less broken, no insults. No accusations, just facts, just proof. Then I drafted a single email. To Ellie Harper, TechLine subject. For context, not conflict. Ellie, I saw your piece. I appreciate the balance and honesty. I've attached a small archive, not to escalate. Anything but to fill in the blanks. This isn't about revenge, it's about remembering what was real. If you decide to publish anything further, I trust your judgment. Zaki hovered over send for a moment. Then clicked. No press release, no tweet thread, no campaign, just one message. Just the truth. 2 days passed. The world kept moving. Lantec remained silent. Garrett hadn't said a word publicly, no statement, no denial, until TechLine published. Part 2, headline. Exclusive leaked documents reveal intentional erasure of Virion's original dev team. This time it wasn't speculation. It was slides, screenshots, timestamps, quotes. Ellie had used my archive but never mentioned me by name. Instead, she referred to a founding technical architect close to the project. That was intentional, because this wasn't about making me a symbol. It was about making the truth undeniable. The fallout was immediate. Public outcry intensified. Luis texted, "Investors are demanding a full internal audit." Priya sent a photo of Garrett leaving the office. Face down. No smile. Cam forwarded a LinkedIn post from one of our earliest beta clients. Our company adopted Virion because of the team behind it. That team deserves recognition. Tech is human. Don't forget that. Tech is human started trending. I didn't celebrate. Instead, I went for a walk through the old neighborhood. Past the coffee shop where Priya and I once sketched the logic tree for the P3 parser on a napkin. Past the bookstore where I'd met Luis on a weekend, laptop open between us. Memories weren't bricks to throw. They were roots. And the roots had held. That evening, I got another email from a burner address. Subject, you deserve to know. Attachment, executive strategy, Q3 goals.pptx. I opened it. Slide 12, post-launch narrative ownership plan, risk, public discovery of legacy dev team involvement, mitigation, control messaging, limit employee commentary, elevate CEO as primary product voice and a contingency, strategic personnel turnover if narrative fails. I stared at that word. Turnover. Not people, not names, not humans. Just turnover, like inventory. That was the final push. I made a second archive, stronger this time. Everything indexed, signed, verified, hosted independently with legal oversight. Still, no insults. No rage, just a quiet, immovable wall of truth. Then I locked it behind a secure link and sent it to Ellie. One line only. If they spin the story, this speaks for itself, she replied 10 minutes later. Understood. They won't. Win this time. The article dropped on a Wednesday TechLine exclusive, the real architect behind Virion OS. The subhead was brutal in its elegance. He didn't tweet, he didn't rant, he just showed his work. It featured side-by-side screenshots, Garrett Hayes in his crisp suit at the launch event, and a grainy photo of my whiteboard sketch dated 4 years prior with handwritten labels and coffee stains in the corner. The annotations were unmistakable. Auto-rank, priority engine. That became Garrett's insight feed. ZT, PR, 4.2. Priya's AI sublayer prototype. LT, logic chain, Luis's now famous routing algorithm. The article didn't name me directly, just referred to a former systems architect integral to the platform's creation. It didn't need to say my name. The sketches, timelines, and Slack receipts did the talking. Within an hour, it was everywhere. Built by Zakash. Who built Virion Tech is human. Give credit, not buzzwords. One tweet got 110,000 likes in 4 hours. The guy who got fired the day before launch is the guy who built the product. What a metaphor for everything wrong with tech leadership. By evening, 3 things happened almost simultaneously. Lantec's stock dropped 11%. 3 board members were reported as concerned about optics. Garrett Hayes posted a statement. It read like a PR script fed through a blender. We acknowledge the value of all past contributors to the Virion project. Our forward-looking vision remains unchanged as we continue to. I stopped reading. The comments tore it apart. Translation. We got caught. Still no names? Still no ownership? Imagine erasing the engineer and thinking no one would notice. I didn't respond publicly. Not once. No tweets, no interviews, no shade. I let the truth breathe on its own. Behind the scenes, my inbox, filled with messages. Would love to chat. Looking for someone to head our enterprise systems division. Are you open to a short-term CTO contract? We're building a new platform. Interested in helping us architect it? Some were flattering. Others felt like ambulance chasing with venture capital. I ignored most of them, except one. It came from Priya. Subject, something worth building again. Attachment, a PDF with the logo of a small VC firm I didn't recognize and a pitch deck titled Root Layer. She wrote only one line. We're starting something new, and we want you to lead it. I read the deck twice. The idea wasn't revolutionary, but it was right. A lightweight, ethics-first workflow engine built for transparency and customization. Open architecture, zero vendor lock. Built by the same people who lived through the mess. It wasn't trying to win headlines. It was trying to fix the real problems Betrayal was supposed to solve before marketing took over. On page 3, Team Priya, CTO Luis, Infrastructure Lead Cam, UX Director Micah, DevOps Janice, from support. Client experience, they'd all left, quietly, one by one after the launch. I stared at the last line of the final slide. Vision without trust is just branding. We're not doing that again. I closed the PDF and emailed Priya back. I'm in. Let's talk roles. The next week felt like watching two timelines diverge in real time. On one side, Landtech, unraveling. More employees resigned. A minor investor pulled funding. A partner company delayed a procurement agreement citing governance concerns. Their product update patch failed to load for 3 enterprise clients because the architecture team was gone. On the other side, Root Layer, building. We met at a co-working space on 9th and Bryant. No badges, no big titles, just whiteboards, laptops, and purpose. I walked in and saw Cam sketching UI layouts with his usual mess of Sharpies. Luis was debugging something on 2 screens at once. Priya looked up and gave the smallest, most knowing nod. It felt like coming home. That Friday, TechLine published a follow-up headline. Where are they now? The devs behind the drama speak. Without bitterness. It was a simple piece, quiet, honest. Priya explained her reasons for leaving. Cam talked about how leadership had stopped listening. Luis shared how the product felt hollow without its original rhythm. When asked about me, they kept it graceful. Zach didn't lead with ego. He led with clarity. He built the bones of this thing, we just helped bring it to life. No anger, just truth. Again. 2 days later, Garrett called me. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. His voice was tight. Zach, listen. I think we got off on the wrong foot. I've spoken with the board and, well, there's interest in reconciliation. Maybe a public-facing advisory role. Or even co-leadership on the next rollout. Let's talk. I didn't respond. The next day I got an email from his assistant. Subject, urgent collaboration opportunity. I archived it without reading. Instead, I worked. We ran beta testing on Root Layer's MVP. Feedback came in from our first 3 testers, faster than anything we've used. Feels like it was built by people who actually do the work. Please don't sell out. We wouldn't. Not this time. A week later, Landtech's quarterly earnings missed projections by 19%. The same day, Root Layer was invited to present at BuildSphere, one of the largest developer-focused product expos in the country. Our slot, Tornosu AM, exactly 1 year after the Virion launch. That night, as I packed my old sketchbook for the trip, I got one last message from Ellie Harper. Subject, they're asking again. Body, another publication's doing a profile on Landtech's downfall. They want to quote you. I told them you probably wouldn't speak. She was right. I wrote back, thanks, Ellie. Let the work speak. That's all it ever needed. Exactly 1 year to the day, the calendar alert popped up like it did every morning. BuildSphere, Root Layer, main stage, 11:00 a.m. But I wasn't thinking about stages or microphones. I was holding a mug of too hot coffee walking through the quiet hum of our new office in San Mateo. No nameplates on the doors, no glass partitions, No pointless buzzwords stuck to the walls, just a whiteboard, framed in matte black, hung between two floor-to-ceiling windows. On it, a photo of our original workflow sketch, the one from 2017, hastily drawn in a coffee shop, with my chicken scratch notes bleeding into Cam's colored arrows. Luis's initials circled twice, Priya's block diagrams overlapping half the layout. We didn't frame it because it was pretty. We framed it because it was real. Underneath we'd printed the words, "Build for people," not approval. It was our only slogan. Rootlayer had just closed its first six-figure seed round 3 months prior. Our alpha product was already being called the anti-corporate platform by 3 different tech blogs. One article dubbed, "It's Slack's cool, disciplined cousin with emotional intelligence." We weren't trying to be flashy. We weren't selling disruption. We were just building what should have existed all along. A tool that didn't treat humans like bandwidth. Our internal retention? 100%. Our first enterprise trial had onboarded a company with 160 employees in 3 days, without hiring a transformation consultant, and still, we kept our heads down. No product launch circus, no staged applause, just good work. Shared truth. At 10:15, I stood by the office window with Priya, watching interns run tests on version 0.9.4. Luis leaned over a console, walking one of them through a bug that had popped up in the load balancer. Cam was tweaking button placements, on the mobile interface muttering, "If I see another unnecessary hover effect, I'm staging a protest." And me? I was doing what I'd always wanted to do, help people make better decisions faster, without ever needing to lie about where it came from. At 10:47, my phone buzzed. A notification from LinkedIn. "Garrett Hayes has sent you a message." I stared at it, then opened it. "Congratulations, you win," that was all it said. No greeting, no context, no apology. Just 6 words from a man who had tried to erase the foundation beneath him and was now watching the building crack in real time. I didn't respond. By 11 high, we were backstage at BuildSphere. Our presentation wasn't a speech. It was a 20-minute walkthrough by Priya and one of our interns. Layla, a former QA engineer who'd been told she wasn't strategic material at her last job. She nailed it. People asked real questions, not about valuation or scale, about you. When it was over, someone from DevPulse Weekly approached me, mic in hand. "Can we quote you?" she asked. "Just a sentence or two on what this means for you personally." I thought about Garrett's message, about the sleepless nights, about being told I wasn't part of the future of a product I had built. Then I looked at Layla, still flushed with adrenaline, and at Priya smiling from the back of the crowd. I gave the reporter a quiet shrug. "I never asked for revenge," I said. "I just told the truth." That evening I walked the long way home. The sun was low and gold, my bag slung over one shoulder. The kind of evening that feels like memory in real time. When I got home, Grace had already lit a few candles. Jazz played from the kitchen speaker. A plate was waiting for me. Roast chicken, mashed sweet potatoes. Her version of a celebration. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "Told you the long way would lead somewhere better." I laughed. We ate quietly. The way people do when there's nothing more to prove, and everything just is. After dinner, I opened my laptop one last time, reviewed the testing feedback, typed a quick note to Luis about the UI quirk on the dashboard. Then I saw Garrett's message still sitting there. I hovered over it, clicked archive, closed the tab. The next morning, I was the first one in the office. Cam arrived 20 minutes later with cold brew and a bag of bagels. Luis came in with 2 laptops and a donut. Priya walked in, already on a call. And me? I walked into the testing lab, picked up a dry erase marker, and turned to the team. "All right," I said, smiling. "Let's make something that matters. Again."